So the DA is accusing Kwazulu-Natal Premier Sihle Zikalala of leaving the people of the province to fend for themselves while the province burnt. The party says the deployment of an additional 25,000 SANDF troops to that area was as a result of political pressure imposed by it. It's also calling for the swift apprehension of all political players suspected of instigating the violence and the looting, really, in the name of Jacob Zuma. DA provincial leader Francois Rodgers is joining us now, live from Kokstad this morning. Great to have you on the program, Francois. Thanks very much indeed for making time. There had been a call from the government in KZN not to point fingers at this time. The impression being given is that we have more pressing matters. Is that how you also see it?
Good morning, Ayanda, and good morning to your viewers. Ayanda, this is a normal response when things get out of control. We are told, don't point fingers, this is not the time. The problem is, and I was listening to your comments earlier, unless we determine what the cause is and what has actually brought about this anarchy, we're not going to be able to address it. So it's not a single approach that we need to take. But from the beginning of the situation, that is important, that the suspicious involvement of senior politicians and state security, that's where it begins. So if we don't nip it in the bud there, we're not going to be able to bring about the law and order that we need, and we're not going to be able to start building and bringing back some sense of normality with a recovery plan, Ayanda.
At the beginning, we were all under the impression that this has to do with just politics. Many people admitting that it's a bit more complex than that. With that in mind, where do you think then the genesis of the unrest actually is?
Well, you know, in politics, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work things out. You can simply join the dots. Now, we know the ANC went through the last Congress in the competition between the Zuma and the CR17 faction. And I'll take you back to a meeting that was held in the Maharani some time ago between Jacob Zuma, Ace Magashule, and a few others. And already then there were warning signs and the red lights were coming on that something is not quite right. And there's a plan from the Radical Economic Transformation grouping of the ANC. And then, of course, you have a look at what happened at Nkandla just before Jacob Zuma was incarcerated. And if you look at some of the senior leaders of the ANC who were present there, people like the MEC of Health that just absolutely disregarded the COVID lockdown regulations, and you say to yourself, well, what is going on here? Then you look at Sihle Zikalala, who in 2018 made it clear that for the Zuma trial, the ANC should remain neutral and stay away. Well, lo and behold, when Zuma appeared in the Pietermaritzburg High Court, Sihle Zikalala shared a stage with him. Yesterday, in his executive statement about the state of anarchy in our province, part of his executive statement was to wish Jacob Zuma well. On 2 occasions now, Sihle Zikalala has called on the president to pardon Jacob Zuma. As I say, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out what's going on. This is factionalism within the ANC. They want to bring KwaZulu-Natal to its knees. They want to destroy it. They want to get rid of CR17 or the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa. That's it. There's nothing else. People don't go out and loot and then set infrastructure alight. That's not normal behavior. One can understand if you've got socio-economic challenges and there is a mob mentality, people will go in and loot. We've seen that before. But the destruction of property clearly indicates that there's something more sinister at play. The fact that the N2 and the N3 are still not accessible, our main routes into KwaZulu-Natal, and nothing has yet been done, is another factor.
Right. You know, Francois, many will be looking at our discussion and, dare I say, predict that the commentary from the DA will be to attack the ANC. I wonder if there could be a bit more nuance to our discussion beyond that. What questions, for instance, do you think those people need to be asking?
When you say those people, Ayanda?
Well, those who, I guess, would anticipate that the DA would be taking jabs at the ANC during a time like this. What are they missing?
Well, as I said, Ayanda, quite simply, if you have anarchy and it's politically fueled, then unless you can address that problem, it's not going to abate. It will continue. No matter how many boots you have on the ground, no matter how many military vehicles we have on the ground, it will continue. It's an internal struggle to collapse the state. We've certainly been saying, since I met with the Premier on Tuesday this week, we need to sit round a table, a multi-party task team in the province, and try and find a solution. But that has fallen on deaf ears. So until we can address the cause, I don't know how we're going to stop it and how we're going to be able to put together a recovery plan, which we've already come up with certain ideas in that recovery plan. But until we bring about law and order, we're captured.
Sure. The objective, the hope for many, is for us to start rebuilding. What becomes the role of the opposition in that context, do you think?
Well, Ayanda, let me firstly just say that if you look at KwaZulu-Natal and what happened over the past few days, it's now 6 days, the most encouraging sign is that people from all walks of life, from all cultures, all creeds, all religions actually stood together to defend the situation, to defend their property, and to defend their lives. Now that tells me that we have a majority of law-abiding citizens in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And those are the true heroes. And that is the type of spirit and the type of patriotism that's actually going to help us to rebuild. And I must also say, Ayanda, the media, you guys have done an enormous job in exposing what's going on. Because if you haven't been on the ground, you cannot understand or comprehend the damage and chaos that's being caused. So I think the middle needs to hold here. We need to, like-minded people, need to stand together and get rid of and sustain the pressure to stop what's going on. And then we can sit around a table and then we can say, right, well, what are the plans going forward here?
Francois Rodgers, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Appreciate your weighing in on this undoubtedly troubling moment in this country. Really appreciate your speaking to us today. Francois Rodgers is the DA leader in KZN. Thank you very much indeed.